Hi, my name is Shane. I use she and her pronouns, and this is the first of two sessions playing Jason Cordova's The Between, a role playing game about monster hunters in Victorian England. This game was organised through the Gauntlet gaming calendar. The Gauntlet is an online community that plays and discusses a whole lot of different role playing games, especially story games, indie games, and OSR games. If you'd like to find out more, or especially if you'd like to come and play a game with us, please check out gauntlet-rpg.com. And if you're watching this in June, which is when we're recording it, we have Gauntlet Community Open Gaming Weekend coming up in the last weekend of June, where a whole lot of GMs, I suspect including several players in this game, will be running one-shots. And that's intentionally for people who are new to the Gauntlet to come and just try out a game with us, see if you like it, see if you want to get more involved. Some of the games are full at this point, but a lot of them still have open space. I know I have open space in one of my games, so if you want to come and fill that, it would be very welcome. That said, I will get my players to introduce themselves. So we'll just go around the order that I can see you on my screen. And I'll just get you to say your name, your pronouns, anything that you want to tell us about yourself. And we discussed this a little bit before the recording started, but just a bit about like how familiar you are with the Between, if at all. And if you're not, that's of course totally fine. But Blake, can I get you to go first?
Sure. G'day, I'm Blake, he, him. I've got some PBTA games on itch and drive through because I love PBTA. Let's have a look. I haven't played The Between before, but I have seen Penny Dreadful like twice. It's a cracker show if you like supernatural horror. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you. Joel?
Yeah, I am Joel, he, him pronouns. I also haven't played The Between at all. I almost just called it Penny Dreadful. But I have played Brindlewood Bay before, including some of the other Touchstone stuff, so I have a vague idea of what's going on. And I am looking forward to it.
Great. Gabe?
Hi, everyone. I'm Gabe. I use he, him pronouns. This is also my first Gauntlet game, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, I've run a number of sessions of Brindlewood Bay, so I'm familiar with kind of the core, and I've been kind of following along with the Between in the Gauntlet Discord, or the Gauntlet Publishing Discord. So really looking forward to it.
Cool. And Jamie?
Yeah, so my name is Jamie. I use he, they pronouns. And yeah, I really love supernatural, investigative, Victorian, like it's all just like in the stuff I like. I also really love Brindlewood Bay, and I love the core investigation system so much. I lovingly stole it for Apocalypse Studios, which is a game I'm working on. And yeah, I also like to make games. You can find my stuff on temporalhiccup.itch.io. So, but yeah, I started reading The Between, and I was like, please, I hope someone's going to run it on the Gauntlet soon. And the moment Shane posted on the Gauntlet, I was like, I'm going to stop reading. So Matthew's very upset that I beat him to a Shane game. We fight over Shane games in this just so you know. Matthew usually wins, yeah.
Matthew's playing 2 games with me on the same day every week next month, which I feel is a level of commitment that I may not deserve. So I guess I should answer my own question as well, just so you all know. I haven't played The Between either. I obviously have read it. I just finished up a campaign of Brindlewood Bay, so some of the mechanics are pretty familiar. But I guess one of my main motivations really for putting this on the calendar was that I have my own Brindlewood Bay hack going into playtesting next month, and I figured I should check if there's anything I should steal from this game before I get there. So I like to start a new game just with a quick CATS procedure for concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. So just a shout out if you got any questions about any of this. But concept, The Between, again, is a game about Victorian monster hunters. I guess one thing that I would like to emphasize up front is that we're not striving for historical accuracy here. I don't know how much any of you know about Victorian England, but it's very likely more than I do. In particular, this is a version of Victorian England that not only includes queer people and people of colour and disabled people and other marginalised groups, who of course were actually present in real historical Victorian society, but in this game, those groups are not marginalised or oppressed. They can move in the most, exalted social circles. They can hold high office. They're just part of society in every way. aim of the game, or the aim, we only have 2 sessions, and they'll be 3 hours each with short breaks roughly on the hour. Today, we'll just finish up this introductory stuff pretty quick, make characters, and then start playing through your first threat. The game has a quite formalistic sort of cycle of play that moves through 4 phases. And I would like to get through all 4 phases today. That's probably a little optimistic, but hopefully we'll get through a couple of full cycles in the 2 sessions that we have. We'll see how we go. Tone, just to read from the text here, the tone of the Between is dark, mysterious, and sensual. I learned from role-playing games that I cannot pronounce the word sensual properly. I can't help making the second S a little bit too sibilant, so apologies. A little bit of levity or humour from time to time is okay, but we will always strive to return to that dark, brooding place the characters exist in. And subject matter, murder, cannibalism, body horror, dark sexual themes, erotic sensuality, threats to animals and children, foul language, blasphemy, witchcraft, and defiling graves and corpses are all things that come up frequently in this game. We'll talk about safety tools in just a moment, but in the interest of setting expectations right now, you should know that this game deals with dark and intense subject matter. One thing I just wanted to flag in terms of subject matter is that the game text uses the word prostitute and prostitution quite a bit. I consider those to be slurs, so if that comes up in the game, I'd appreciate it if we could use the phrase sex work or sex worker. That would be good for me. That said, we will talk about safety tools. So if you open up the absolutely incredible character keeper for this game that Drew, also of the Gauntlet, put together, you'll see there's a tab for safety. And if you scroll down just a little, so it looks like most of you have already found the romance matrix, which I think is pretty self-explanatory. The main thing that I want to talk about here is the lines and veils part. So you'll see there's a whole lot of topics listed there, from alcoholism and body horror through to torture, and boxes to tick for whether that's a line, a veil, and ask for first or an interest. I'm going to talk through this a little bit, but if you want to start filling that out, that's totally fine. Go ahead. You're very welcome to add more topics at the bottom of the list. That's not supposed to be exhaustive at all. And for me, when I play, a line is a topic that just won't come up in the game at all. So it's something that we're not going to have in the game, not going to talk about, not going to refer to. Veil is something that might happen in the story of the game, but it's not going to be explicit. We're not going to focus on that. We're going to skip over it quickly or fade to black or something like that. Ask first is just if you'd like someone to check in with you before that comes up in the game. And interest is something that you would particularly like to see in the game. I don't know how much I'll be able to cater to people's particular interests in just a 2-session run, but if you want to fill that out, that's very welcome. So just take a minute to mark out anything that's a line or a veil for you, or an ask first. And when you're happy with that, if I could just get you to type OK in the chat or done, so I know that we're ready to continue. Okay, so everyone's happy with the list for now. Obviously, this is like a living document. Just because you didn't mark something now doesn't mean you can't go back and make additions or changes later on. Just take a sec to read over those lists and make sure that you're clear about what isn't included. I think it's particularly important for players to be across this stuff a little bit in games that use that kind of Brindlewood Bay investigation engine, just because the way theorize moves work, you can kind of spin a lot of content, and it's good to be aware of where people's limits are for that. The other 2 safety tools that we're going to be using, one is the X card. So if anything comes up in the game that you're not comfortable with or that isn't fun for you, you can just say X card, ask to X card it, type an X in the chat, make an X with your hands. Any way that you want to signal that is totally fine. We'll just remove that content. We'll go back. We'll work something else out. It's not a problem at all. And the last safety tool that I like to use is the open door. So essentially just meaning that if you need to leave, you can, whether that's to entirely leave the game and not come back, or whether it's just take a short break. That's totally fine. If you can let us know, obviously we'll appreciate that. But if you just need to leave, then just leave. That's okay. Two things just generally about safety and safety tools. First of all, I just like to emphasize that it's safety at the table is a collective responsibility. So everyone, is welcome and encouraged to check in if you notice anything that seems like it might come up in the game that's a line or veil. I will be grateful if you point that out, if you check in, make sure that we're all comfortable with what's going on. And in particular, if someone makes a visual X, if they type an X or indicate an X some other way, I often won't be looking at the stream while I'm running the game. So if you notice that, please verbalize it so that I know that it's happened. And the other thing about safety tools is just don't be shy about using them. This is a game that can get into some pretty heavy areas. Nobody wants someone to be having a bad time because they, don't want to disrupt other people's fun. I'm absolutely certain that we can find something just as dark and horrifying as whatever you've X-carded out and continue in that spirit. That's everything that I want to say by way of introduction before we start making characters. Does anyone have any questions about any of that or anything they'd like to add? All right, then. It is time to make your characters. So the Keeper is largely just going to walk you through this. I just want to talk a little bit. Shuffling my notes.
In the book, it said something about everyone's supposed to have a dark and mysterious past as well as a dark and mysterious future. So you don't talk about the past unless a move specifically tells you to.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that's right. You are encouraged in this game not to talk about your past unless the mechanics explicitly tell you to say something about your past. So your backstory will remain largely occluded at first. And I mean, in a two-shot, probably will remain largely occluded altogether. But I'm just going to read a little spiel from the text before you start creating your characters. So it says, before we begin character creation, I want to share a few more details about the setting. These characters, the hunters, are the current residents of a place called Hargrave House. Hargrave House is a mansion on Belgrave Street in London. The people who live there share the common goal of defending the city from whatever dark forces are lurking in its shadows, be it monster or murderer. They operate outside official channels, frequently tackling cases that Scotland Yard can't or won't. Importantly, Hargrave House existed long before the characters took up a residence there, and previous residents were doing the same work. By the time we join these characters, they have already been living and working together for a time. We don't dwell on how they came to live at Hargrave House, nor do we care about who owns or funds the place. We may learn more about those things in the future, but for now, Hargrave House just is. Another thing to know, this is what Blake was talking about, is that these characters are to remain mysterious. We should avoid talking about their pasts, both in and out of character, unless we are prompted to do so by the game's rules. The reason we do that is because we want to learn about these characters as we play. It's a bit like watching a good TV show. We don't learn everything about them at once. The information is given to us in pieces, at dramatically impactful moments, often through flashbacks. So that's it. So now you each need to pick a playbook and then make some choices based on that. If you look in the folder that I shared with you, there's a document called, what did I call it? The Between Playbook Summaries. And that includes just a paragraph about each of the playbooks if you need some guidance in deciding. But otherwise, I'm sure that some of you at least have ideas about which playbooks you might like. Is anyone clear on what playbooks they want to play?
Quick question. I know there's a note in the book about not using the Explorer if it's not a campaign. Do you want to go with that?
Yes, you sounds like you're more across this than I am, so that seems like good advice. Blake, did you have an idea about what playbooks you might want?
I've got a couple for the Vessel or the American, so if someone else wants one of them, I'll take the other one.
Joel, do you know what you want to play?
I don't have anything that I'm set on, but the Undeniable or the Factotum looked interesting.
Cool. Joel, sorry, Gabe.
I was leaning towards the American or the factotum.
Okay. Jamie, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm actually drawn to the mother.
Okay. So that's a pretty good spread. There was a little bit of overlapping, but I think enough that everyone can get one of their first choices.
Yeah. I'll go Vessel, and that leaves because no one else said that, so that's all right.
Great. I'll grab the American then.
Okay. I will go factotum then.
All right. So I'm just going to leave you all to go through and fill it out. Those yellow boxes should really guide you through the character creation process. But obviously, shout out if you have any questions or anything that you're not sure about.
And I guess part of my character is deciding which of the other hunters I'm work for. Does anyone have a preference of having a butler / factotum following them around?
I mean,
Who could say no?
I mean, that's such a good offer.
Need a little help making a child?
Yeah, exactly. I'll need someone to help me hold different parts.
Okay. What have I gotten myself into?
Yeah, I don't mind if you want to choose me, but whatever you think fits best for you.
Okay. Sounds good.
Mine would go to palm readings and astrology readings and seances and shit all the time. So if you don't mind standing around for that.
Holding your coat in the background. Okay. I think I just have to find a picture and then I am done, which I can do on the side.
Cool. So yeah, I hope that you all will find yourself pictures if you haven't already, but we'll keep going. So we're going to introduce them quickly. So first of all, we'll just go left to right across the character keeper, and I'll get you to introduce your character by their name, look, and vice. Also tell us what pronouns they use, and tell us what your playbook moves do. I will remind you that you should avoid sharing any details about your character's backstory at this time. So, Gabe, do you want to tell us about Liar Jim Fletcher?
Yeah. So, Liar Jim Fletcher has, I'm still working on a picture, but he's reasonably tall, has very sharp cheekbones, and an extravagant fringe-filled leather coat. Very uncharacteristic for London. And he also has an amulet and a ring with skull motifs on them.
Cool. What's his vice?
Oh, yeah. His vice is opium.
Nice. And tell us about his playbook moves.
Yeah, so the first playbook move is called the Quickening. So I live with a curse, and I have to manage that curse every dusk phase to see if I get overtaken by it or if I can control it and hopefully even gain some advantages from having the curse. And then the other move I picked is Tall Tales. So when you tell a story from back home that is wildly unbelievable in order to charm someone, roll with presence. On a hit, they fall for your charm and do as your wish or reveal a clue. On a 10+, they won't ask for anything in return.
Amazing. Thank you. So we'll come back for a second round of sort of more detail in the introductions in just a sec. But for now, Joel, tell us about Reeves.
Yeah, so I'm playing Reeves, who does not use a first name. Everyone just calls him by their last name, she, her pronouns. Her look is that she has a hip flask with Rear Admiral boots cat decoration. Not sure what Rear Admiral boots is, but she's got a hip flask with cats on it. A black dress with magpie detailing, or crows or ravens kind of around the edges, and a walking stick with a duck head handle. And her vice is brandy. She likes a little bit of the sauce.
Lovely.
The moves that I have, so I have an employer, which I'm going to go with the mother for that, and help scrounge up some body parts. So basically, I can only request scenes with the employer for the purpose of triggering vulnerable moves. Otherwise, anyone else can request a scene with me. Any roles associated with any action done in direct defense of your employer are taken with advantage. And if my employer is ever retired from play, I am also retired from play. And I went with the Ghost of Hargrave House. During the dust phase, you can remove a marked item from another hunter's personal quarters and add it to your own unmarked. When you return the item to its original owner in the middle of a scene you are sharing with them, describe how it is slightly altered. They add the item back to their personal quarters unmarked.
Cool. Jamie.
Yes, I was distracted by the cat.
I know.
So I've missed her. She's so cute. Yeah, so I'm playing the mother, and in particular Malik Al-Kabir, who uses he, him pronouns. And let's see. So their look is he has a vermilion waistcoat, spectacles with yellow smoke lenses, and piercing eyes. I have a feeling like he just puts on that outfit when he's going to go hunting, right? Otherwise, he's dressed quite. He blends into the wallpaper, as it were. And so his vice is cigarettes, and I was really tempted by voyeurism. I'm going to be honest. I was like, what is? But anyway, cigarettes. And I gave him a +1 in reason, even though I don't know he's a reasonable person. And let's see. I picked. So the move I start with is I have a secret laboratory in Hargrave House where I'm building a person from body parts I acquired in the city. When the time is right, I will use principles of chemistry and alchemy to give my creation life. When I acquire a body part for the child, I check it off from the list below and narrate a brief, pleasant memory of the person that I lost that is triggered by holding that part in my hands. And when I acquire all the necessary parts, basically I'm going to be tempted to bring the child to life. So it's something that I'm moving towards. And the extra thing I picked was beneath the skin, because I think it would make sense. When I examine a corpse, I may ask the keeper 2 of the following. So I get extra questions. I can also, I got it because there's an option for, can I take a body part for the child without anyone noticing? So I'm like, how does that happen? Anyway, so that's why I picked that move, because
Wow.
I just wanted to ask Shane those questions.
Sounds wonderful. All right. And Blake, tell us about Helena.
All right, so Helena Henbury, she, her, she's the vessel. So, yeah, she's kind of been talking with supernatural entities her entire life. Her vice is opium, as in like the hookah, I think it's pronounced, in like the opium dens, of which there were shitloads in Victorian London. And her main sort of move is rites of salt and smoke, where she can like banish creatures or talk to them or observe other times and places, and yeah, just interact with spirits. All going well.
Cool.
Oh, her look. Where is it? There. So her look is black lace gloves, deep purple dress with petticoat, and onyx and amethyst jewelry.
All right. So now we're going to go around again, and everyone is going to read aloud the color text at the top of their playbook. So that's like the italic text. I think it's in row 7 on the keeper. After you read your color text, the rest of us are each going to name one object or piece of equipment that we think your hunter would have in their bedroom at Hargrave House, based on what we know about them so far. If you're not happy with anything, you can veto it or suggest a revision or something like that. And you'll see that there's a personal quarters section of the playbook where you can write down the items that you have. And basically, you'll be able to use them in play to get advantage on dice rolls. So let's go back right to left across the keeper for this. So Blake, can I get you to read that flavor text, and then we'll give you some things.
For as long as you can remember, dark entities have been near. They lurk just inside your peripheral vision, just at the mirror's edge. When you close your eyes, you can actually feel them, their cold breath, their oily touch, an occasional feverish embrace. They want to be inside you. They want to rub at your guts and deposit their power. Others are drawn to you as well, those who would use you to master such dark things in order to serve their own agenda. Some of these interlopers, these usurpers, can be of use, such as other hunters with whom you share a home. Others, like the Coven, are best avoided. In either case, you are no one's object, tool, or weapon. You are no mere bystander. Your fate is yours to shape.
Nice. So we each are going to propose something that Helena keeps in her personal quarters. Does anyone want to go first? Does anyone have an idea? Otherwise, I'll just name someone.
Yeah, I have an idea.
Go ahead.
I think it's like those pendants where it's like a silhouette of a person. I forgot what they're called, but there's like a special name for those things.
Like a locket.
Cameo. Yeah, exactly. Like a cameo. And I think, let's add that it's a locket, right? So there's like a person in profile and it opens up. We don't know what's inside, of course. So.
Nice.
But I don't think it looks like you. It looks like someone else.
Gabe, do you have something for?
Yeah, I will offer a text in an ancient, undefined language, and the pages are inconsistently written on and blank. So not every page is filled.
Cool.
Nice.
Joel?
Yeah, I think somewhere in the room is like just a collection of different like protection amulets and talismans and stuff that you've kind of collected from anywhere that you could. Like some of it might be legitimate that you've done a lot of research on. Some of it might have been from like, what would the term be? Snake oil salesmen who like promise you that it's going to work, and you just kind of like take whatever you can get.
Okay.
I think that what I will offer you is, like, I'm not quite sure what you call it, but you know, a mirror that's kind of got a handle, like a paddle-shaped mirror, very ornate.
So just a hand mirror.
Hand mirror, sure. With onyx and amethyst detail to match your jewelry. All right, and Jamie, do you want to read that flavor text, and we'll populate your personal quarters?
Yeah, absolutely. So, few understand the mysteries of human anatomy like you do. You are one of the most brilliant medical minds in London and could take your place as a lecturer at any number of esteemed academies. But you have different ideas, different plans. You are no longer interested in merely preserving life, but creating it. And so you'll do what you must to survive, tending to the sex workers dying of consumption, assisting Scotland Yard with grisly forensic inquiry, and creeping about in the dark with these new people, these hunters with whom you share a home. But always you are focused on the new life, growing in your secret womb, your child, the one you hope will capture even the faintest reflection of the person you loved and lost.
Amazing. Does anyone want to volunteer to go first with an item? I think I might go first this time because obviously this references Frankenstein. I don't know how well people know the original James Whale Frankenstein movie, but at the start things start to go wrong when Igor accidentally gets the jar marked criminal brain from the lab rather than I can't remember what the other jar is, but he gets the wrong brain. So I think that you have in your room a jar with a brain in it marked criminal brain.
I love it. Perfect.
I will say, I mean, it's a little on the nose, but I think there's some you've got like a medical bag or like a surgeon's bag with like a bone saw, scalpels, maybe stuff to like take specimens or harvest body parts.
Mhm. I'm just merely acquiring what is no longer needed.
So in that spirit, I'm going to say like a cane or a walking stick that used to belong to someone else.
Ooh, I love that. Nice.
And Blake?
Just looking what else I've got. I think you've got a large collection of waistcoats. You've got like 20 nice waistcoats, and you just kind of fickily, randomly pick one each day or whatever. But they're all, top notch.
Nice. I love it.
Like half of Reef's job is just keeping the waistcoats in order.
Exactly. And there's like a very precise, like, this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And it changes every fortnight, right?
And also like a separate waistcoat for the daytime and the evening, of course.
Of course. Oh my, I cannot wear the same clothes throughout the whole day.
And they've got to be like color toned in order as the rainbow. They can't be out of. You can't. There's no color blocking. It's got to be one tone to the next.
Exactly. So it changes every fortnight and every season, right? So.
All right, fantastic. So Joel, tell us about Reeves.
Yeah. So you had a life before you entered the service of your employer, but the details of that life are unimportant. All that matters now is the person you serve, and Hargrave House, where you will grow ancient and die, if you're lucky. More likely, your employer's colleagues, these hunters, will be the end of you, overturning things that should remain hidden and goading on terrors that dwell in dark places. You'll do your best to help them, of course, to keep them alive, because without them, what are you really?
Right. Who has something to offer the Factotum's private quarters? I think that I think that you have an extensive collection of like chemical cleaning products, various powders and liquids and things like that.
I like that.
Waxes. Jamie, what were you going to say?
Ooh, I was going to say that there's a black silk ribbon, but if you read it from a certain angle against the light, you can see there's all this text that's written all along the ribbon.
Blake?
I thought like cat ornaments. They were all said to bring wealth and prosperity and good luck, and some of them are the Chinese ones where the paw goes like that constantly, and because it's clockwork or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But just like lots of them.
I like that. Okay.
I will say an unreasonably high-end bottle of brandy.
Nice.
Many steps above what you would normally be able to afford.
Okay.
Nice. All right, and Gabe, go ahead and read your text.
Sure. So you grew up in a big city on the eastern seaboard of the United States, the scion of a prominent family, but you detested that life, the formality, the pretension, the venomous hypocrisy. So you went west. You had adventures, got good with a gun, even joined a traveling show for a time. But then came the curse, and everything changed. You did your best. You did your best to control it, and some nights were definitely worse than others. But eventually, it got to be too much. Even your days were affected by the changes within you. Your behavior became reckless and unpredictable, and then you had to run far away. In the end, it was London calling, a thick, throbbing mass of humanity within which to lose yourself, the whole world, and all its lovely pleasures right within your grasp. But the curse has found you, like it always does. Hopefully, these new folks, these hunters you've thrown in with, can help you for good, permanent-like, when the time comes.
Amazing. Who wants to start?
My gosh. Can I jump in already?
Please.
I think you have a gun that you promised to never fire again.
Ooh.
Oh, that's good.
Like a lever action rifle, or what sort of gun is this?
Ooh, I think it's a 6-shooter. Like it's a classic gun from a classic time.
Nice.
Blake, do you have something to suggest?
Yeah, like a book on, like a biology book on animals, or whatever animal type their other side is, whether bear, wolverine, fox, whatever. It's about that sort of animal.
I will say, I think all that running you did, you found someone to make like a forged, some forged documents to get over to London. So you have like some fake ID type information.
And I think that I'm just going to give you a wide-brimmed hat.
Outstanding.
Oh my gosh,
I was
I
tempted
heard
to
the
give you a
sound in my
mustache,
head.
but I think that's a step too far. The
I can use
All
the
right.
mustache to gain advantage.
Well, that's right, but only once.
Yeah.
So, look, it's just about the hour now, so let's just take a break here. We've finished our characters, so when we come back, we'll jump right into the game. I need enough time to make a coffee, so let's come back at 10 minutes past the hour. If that's good for everyone.
I was just thinking, if this had an Australian instead of an American, it would have like a guy with a dryzer bone and a hat with corks hanging off it and a boomerang and all sorts of shit.
It sounds like you should start drafting a playbook of your own.
No.
I think you could flavor it easily, right? I was thinking about American broadly and having someone from South America or
Yeah.
Canada.
So Joel, sorry, I just saw that Joel is back, but off cam. So, does anyone have any questions or anything they wanted to check before we start play? I think everything will be pretty clear as we go, and obviously feel free to ask questions if anything does come up. So we're going to start in the day phase. The game's divided into 4 phases corresponding to different parts of the day and night. The day phase is the one that's pretty much like any other role-playing game that you've played, so I don't think there's anything I really need to explain about it. So I'm just going to start. Hargrave House is an old Gothic revival-style building. It stands out from its neighbours on Belgrave Square, which are done in the more conventional classical style. Hargrave House is also different because it's not just a residence, but a place of work. Dark work. And some more of that dark work has just landed on your doorstep. A back issue of the Illustrated Police News, a tabloid notorious for its salacious, blood-curdling tales of dubious provenance, has a story about a young maid, Ginny Hess, who was found dead, apparently from shock, in her employer's St. James Street townhouse some months ago. The story claims the townhouse is haunted, and that it was almost certainly the appearance of a ghost that caused the young maid to die of fright. After a cursory inquiry, you learn that the precise address of the haunting is 18 St. James Street, and that the name of the family that lives there is the Beals. Now, I'm going to ask a question of Jim Fletcher. Most tales of hauntings are, of course, complete nonsense, especially those carried by the Illustrated Police News. But Hargrave House has some experience with ghosts, and there's a particular detail in this story that confirms that this is a legitimate haunting. What is it that convinces you that this one is legitimate?
I will say that there's a description of the means of death, and it lines up with a story that Ms. Henberg, the vessel, has told us before. And so I trust that she knows about the occult and that she knows about ghostly spiritual happenings. And so I'm more inclined to believe this one because it sounds like the story I've heard before.
Okay. So we'll launch into the actual game in just a sec, but I just wanted to talk briefly through some of the mechanical stuff about how threats work in the game. If you're not there, could I get you to jump onto the threats tab in the Keeper? And you'll see that the first one is starting to fill out there already. So we're doing the St. James Street Ghost. And when you come to answer a question, so obviously in Brindlewood Bay, this is more like the question is always just who did it. In this game, there are specific questions that are relevant to the particular threats, and each question has its own specific complexity and its own particular opportunity, which is what you get if you successfully answer that question. So you'll see that for this one, the first question, which has a complexity of 4, is which part of the house is the ghost attached to? And if you successfully solve that question, you get access to a custom move called Old Bones. I might just read you Old Bones so you know what we're talking about. Old Bones. When you have the Cosmic Passage marked, which is one of your Janus masks, and touch, listen to, or otherwise attune to a building's architectural details, roll with sensitivity. On a hit, a ghost will appear and answer a single question you pose to it, or perform a small task of your choice. Any answers it gives can be in the form of a clue at the keeper's discretion. And on a 10 plus, as above, and the ghost will not ask for anything as in return. So that's what you get if you answer that first question. To resolve the threat, though, to actually deal with the ghost, you need to answer the complexity 6 question, how can we get this ghost to pass on to the next world? And of course, the way that you answer those questions is by accumulating clues and then incorporating those clues into your answer to the question. The other thing I should tell you about it is that each threat has its own Janus mask prompt, and if you scroll down past the clues section, you'll see that that's the mask for this threat, the Mask of the Unquiet. If one of you marks that, you all have to narrate a flashback to your childhood where you experienced a haunting. And you'll see there's also space there for you to put in some details about side characters. Nessa Vives is just an example. There is no Nessa Vives in this threat, just to clarify that. So, you know what the threat is. You know where the threat is. I am inclined to just start by framing a scene where you all arrive on the doorstep of the Beals' residence. But before I do that, I'll just check that you're all happy with that, or whether anyone had an idea about something they wanted to do first. You're happy to just rock up at the Beals?
Oh yeah, totally.
All right. Well,
I
in
have
that
the right
case,
waistcoat for it, so
you certainly do. Well, in that case, I mean, who will knock on the door? What is the plan now that you're here? And I guess I'm curious, like maybe this is more of a discussion for the whole group, but you know, how well known is Hargrave House? Like, this is something that, you know, these questions about Hargrave House are things that we can define. There's not like canonical answers, or at least I've forgotten that part of the text if there were. You know, how much authority do you have? Like, are people generally going to respect Hargrave House? Are you going to have to come up with a cover story? You know, I'm just curious about some of those sorts of things, which maybe will be defined as we go on.
I was thinking we don't have like legal authority, but we're known for helping people in difficult circumstances or unusual circumstances.
All right.
yeah, I think it's one of those things where people in the city don't know who we are exactly. It's just that when we show up to like fix problems, sometimes for the worst. But we show up to fix things.
Yeah,
So,
things will be fixed once you're done with them.
Yeah, yes. So, but I think it depends per person, of course, right, whether or not they go along with it. But I think we have a reputation.
I like the idea that we have some sort of like dead drop, letter drop system where someone who's in need can leave a request too.
Nice.
Yeah, kind of like all word of mouth stuff. We don't have like a official number in the newspaper or anything.
Nice. All right. So who knocks on the door?
I feel like it has to be the American, right? So rude.
Yeah, do I really knock? Like it's like a knock and open kind of situation, I think. Yeah, I'm just gonna go for it. If there's a knocker, I'm gonna hit it louder than is appropriate. More knocks than is expected.
Are the rest of you all just used to this from The Liar by now, or is this embarrassing? Like, how do you take it?
It's good because attention goes on them and we can look around or borrow things or whatever while he's got the aggro.
Alright. So it doesn't take very long before a older guy with a patchy beard opens the door to you. Looks quite surprised by the somewhat odd gathering on his front doorstep. And yeah, I guess looks to the liar Jim Fletcher and just says, yeah, yes, can I help you?
Are you Mr. Beale?
I am, and yourself.
Hi, I'm Jim Fletcher. We're here. We heard there was a disturbance in the area, and we're here to help it out. Me and my associates.
He shakes your hand. He's sort of fiddling with his jacket with his other hand.
Squeeze it too hard.
His eyes narrow a little nervously. Says, "Do you mean poor Ginny?"
That was her name, right?
Yeah.
Kind of look to my friends.
I'll say yes. We do. Thank you for receiving us, and we won't be a nuisance. We just want to have a quick look, ask a few questions. Sorry to trouble you. So I'm being the velvet glove to his iron gauntlet.
Yeah, but it's the good cop and the bad cop, I see. Yeah. All right. Well, come in then, I suppose, please. And ushers you into the front room. And I guess in that front room, you'll see there's like a small library, and there's a couch. There's enough seating for the family and a couple of visitors. I'm going to ask all of you, what in this room indicates that the Beals are living a little bit above their station? Joel, can I get you to answer first?
Yeah, I think Reeves can kind of tell, like, everything looks nice. Like, the frames look like they're, gold gilded and stuff like that, but she's cleaned enough of Malik's like stuff to kind of realize like the velvet curtains have been like restitched multiple times, like past the point of what would be acceptable. The gold's been like touched up where it's been scuffed, and she can kind of see like vases have been put in front of like the really noticeable tears in front of, or like the really noticeable chips in front of the picture frames to try and hide stuff. And she can kind of just like spot that stuff of like, normally I would clean here, but they hid it because, there's a stain that they haven't been able to clean yet.
Nice. Jamie, what about you? What
Yeah.
What detail?
I think Malik notices. Wow, I'm really seeing the Sherlock shook in my eyes. Anyway, I think Malik notices that everything is like incredibly trendy. Like a lot of the furniture is stuff that most people wouldn't have access to. Like it means that they have to know someone in order to be able to buy these particular items, because there's a particular set of drawers that Malik has not been able to get, and is very upset to see it here. So
nice. Blake?
I think a lot of the stuff looks nice, but there's not a theme. So, like, the skirting boards don't match the lampshade, which don't match the curtains, which don't match. Yeah, so it all looks good, but none of it flows. Whoever did this doesn't know how to decorate a room.
And Gabe?
So the liquor bottles are well presented, but they're filled with cheap liquor.
Nice. I like that it suggests that Jim Fletcher can just recognize cheap liquor from just visually. That is not the good whiskey. All right, so
Colors all off.
So Harold Beale sits down on the couch. He looks a little anxious. He sits down and he's like, "Oh, should I get my wife, or do you want a tour of the house? How should we do this?" And just looks to you all. I think he looks to you. I mean, in particular, Helena, because you've been the nicest to him so far.
Yeah, I'd say I'd love a tour, and I just sort of nod to them as if to say, "You look around while I occupy the bed," sort of thing. We've done this before, so I'll let him take my arm and say, "Sure, I'd love a tour. This place looks lovely."
Yeah.
All right.
And I think I get up and I say, "Miss Reeves." And then I hand over these beautiful, like, black silk gloves. We should get to work. And by we, I mean her, right?
Of course, ma'am. Or sir.
So I guess he'll ask Helena, what can I show you? Do you want to see the basement? Do you want to see the bedrooms?
Well, any place where Jenny used to frequent would be helpful.
Well, I suppose I'll start at the top and work down then. Ginny was a wonderful servant. She did amazing work. Has been absolutely impossible to replace, and he will lead you upstairs. As he turns to go, he just turns back to the restaurant and says, "Oh, look, I'm sorry. My children are around somewhere. Don't let them. Don't let them get in your way." And he kind of yells out.
I'll pat his arm. They won't be a bother. It's fine.
All right. And I think he'll just yell out. He'll call out to the family to let them know that we have guests as you start to explore. So he leads Helena upstairs.
I'm going to invite myself on the tour.
Okay. Well, Malik and Reeves, what do you do downstairs? You kind of have, but there's this front room that you're in. There's a dining room that you can see a little bit further back, and you can also see the staircase that leads down to the basement, or the door maybe that leads to the basement.
I think we're both in front of the basement door, looking towards that area. Like, there's a moment where we're just standing, looking at the door, looking at each other, and I'm like, "Well, Miss Reeves, as always, the basement awaits us."
Yes. Most of the bad stuff does happen in the basement. I make sure it's safe. She just kind of like takes the cane that she has with like the duck and like grabs it, ready to like hit anything that might jump out at her, and it'll go down to the basement.
Yeah, I think Malik just does the usual going behind Miss Reeves, because this is what this is how it always goes.
Nice. So the basement contains the kitchen and the servants' quarters. You see that as you come down the stairs. But I'll also ask each of you what evidence you see that shows how historically the servants of this house have protected themselves from the ghost. Jamie, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think I noticed that. Well, I'm really seeing the show in my head, right? I think like there are all these bundles of like herbs and stuff that are like in different, like above the door, by the side, on the floor, like in places that you normally wouldn't see these things. But there are these weird little bits, like it's attached to a small teddy bear. It's attached to a small bit of fabric. Like, you can tell it's ways to appease the ghosts, right?
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Joel? What do you notice?
I think in the servants' quarters, Reeves kind of goes in and looks at like the stash spots that she has in servants' quarters, or that she's seen in other servants' quarters, because like, she knows these spots, and instead of like brandy that's probably at her place, or whatever other vices like other servants have that like she's visited, there's like underneath a pillow, there's sewn in kind of like a protective talisman on the back side of the pillowcase. In like the bottom drawer at the very back, there's maybe like a bag with like different protective amulets inside of it. there isn't any of the like vices that she would have expected to see.
All right. And so now that the two of you are down in the basement, what are you doing? Or what's Reeves doing? Because I imagine that Reeves is the doing the actual work here.
Yeah, I think Reeves has first made sure there's no threats to Malik and making sure everything's safe, and then kind of probably with establishing the details, like goes into the servants' quarters and starts looking around to see if there's like a diary where they may have talked about like the haunting or any information they can glean that way.
All right. We'll go ahead and roll the information move. So this will be our first dice roll of the game. It's a bit exciting. Describe how you. So we know what you're doing. Roll with an appropriate ability.
Okay. Which I would say probably reason or composure would make the most sense.
Yeah, I'm happy with either of those. Composure if you're more like nervous about what the ghost might do. Reason if it's more of a, calm and rational exploration.
Okay. So that was a 6.
Ooh.
All right. So what will happen? I think Malik, you notice first. As Reeves is exploring, looking around, obviously trying to find something, the room is starting to get cold. The temperature drops precipitously. You suddenly can see your breath. Everything around you, there's just a feeling of intense coldness, not just physical coldness, but something beyond that. Joel, do you want to use your Janus masks at all to bump that up to a mixed success?
Yeah, may as well, since it's a 2-shot and we got him. So do I mark the one attached to the threat first, or
you don't? There's no reason that you need to do that.
Okay.
You can just mark one off your playbook if that's what you want.
Okay. Yes.
Well, maybe I'll come back to you so you can think about what you might want to mark, if that works for you.
Yeah, that works for me.
Malik, are you doing anything as the room suddenly seems cold and as your servant roots around?
Yeah, I think I sigh, and I place my yellow smoke glasses on my face, and I say, might as well just get it out in the open. If you need to say something, and I'm looking around, I'm trying to search because I'm sure Miss Reeves will come out and hit it in case I get hurt, right? So I'm very confident that I'm fine. Asking her to do the impossible, like hitting ghosts, typical. So yeah, I think I'm trying to hopefully find something before whatever this is fully manifests.
Yeah, right.
And I think in particular, I'm trying to take apart the little protection herb thingies that we saw earlier, like in case something or it leads me to somewhere.
Nice. Well, yeah, go ahead and roll the information move as well. That sounds like reason to me as well. But if there's something else that you were thinking of, that's okay.
No, I was definitely. I don't think. Yeah, he's a very reasonable person, so I think that makes sense. Okay, so I don't know, reasonable. That was a 9.
A 9. So on a 7 to 9, there's a complication either with a clue itself or a complication you encounter while searching. Mm-hmm. So I think that what happens is that as you unpick this little ward, you hear the sound of glass breaking, and you realize that a mirror hanging on the wall across from you has shattered into just the strangest spiral pattern has cracked itself into the glass. So that's a clue. So you can record that on the threats page, a mirror cracked in a spiral pattern. But I think that you're also going to mark the condition unnerved, and that will be the complication. Unless you want to mark a Janus mask to bring that up to just an outright success.
No, I think unnerved is perfectly reasonable. I think Malik lets out a okay, like kind of Miss Reeves. If you could please, I am in need of your attention, and so I guess that's a good time to cut.
Oh, so we'll come back to you both, but let's see how the tour is going. So Harold leads Helena and Jim Fletcher upstairs, past a greyhound that's sitting, I think, on the stairs. Kind of noses up at you a little bit, but it's obviously not much of a watchdog. He says, "It's all right, Pythagoras," as he passes by. Do you want to ask him anything as you go, or is he just gonna? You just want him to show you around?
How long's the house been in the family? Has anything like this happened before that he has heard of? Or
sure. Well, do you want to? So, I mean, he'll just chat with you a little bit. He'll talk about when they bought the house and things like that. But go ahead and roll the information move with presence to see if he actually tells you anything useful.
So it's just +1. 7.
All right, so that will also be a clue with a complication. So he tells you that they brought the house about 10 years ago, and they've certainly had to deal with the ghost this whole time, but nothing like this, no deaths. But he had heard. Well, he doesn't like to put stock in this sort of thing, but there were stories of a very similar death to Ginny's. Gabe, you mentioned earlier that there was something specific about the manner of death that convinced you this was a real haunting. Like, can we flesh that out a bit more? Like, what is the specific detail?
Now that we have seen a little more, I'm going to say the body was frozen solid in death. So not just cold from like a corpse, but frozen.
Yeah. So Harold tells you that the same thing happened to another servant in this house. At least they say it did. He never believed it until this happened to his Ginny as well.
But how long ago was that?
That was 30 years ago. Yep. 30 years. And so that's a clue. So record that one as well. You see,
I'll inquire into like the health of everyone that's still here. Make sure they're all okay. None of them are feeling sick or had pneumonia or hypothermia or anything sort of related to cold.
Oh no, nothing like that. Everyone's been quite all right. So I have a complication for you that I owe you, but we'll come to that in a little bit. He shows you a row of doors. He kind of gestures and says, "Well, look, these are the bedrooms. My family are probably in their rooms right now. There's the nursery down the end. What shall I show you first?"
Where did Ginny stay?
Well, in the servants' quarters in the basement.
Okay, all right. So they didn't do it yet.
Did she have any sort of specific work in the house? Did she work with, your wife or your children or anything like that?
Well, she was a maid. She cleaned the whole house. She didn't have any, special connection with any particular, family member. I suppose that in the last few months of her service, she did attend, in particular, to my wife. She was heavily pregnant at that point, so she needed a little bit of extra care. But otherwise, no, not really.
Just to clarify, the wife or the servant was pregnant?
Oh, my wife. We have
cool.
a young child.
While we're walking around, as any of the rooms seem like colder than the others, or are they all sort of the same? Or
not that you notice, no.
Okay, cool.
Well, Miss Henberg, why don't we check out the bedroom then if she was working with the wife?
Yeah.
So he leads you then to one end of the hall. He knocks on the door. He calls, Alice. Alice, are you decent? We have some visitors. And she calls back and says yes. And so he opens the door and he says, Alice, I'm sorry to disturb you. We have some visitors from Hargrave House, in fact. And he leads you in. And you see Alice. She's wearing a simple tartan dress. She's sitting on her bed. She's probably put down a novel as you come in. She says, "Oh, Hargrave House. How exciting! I suppose. How can I help you both?"
We're looking at some things happening in the neighbourhood. We just wanted to check everyone was all right. Is she still pregnant, or she had the baby? Or
no, she's had the baby. There's a nursery down the hall.
And I'm saying, you're feeling good. Everything, the baby's fine. You're looking well. Just make chit chat about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, she looks fairly well. Are you wanting to roll the information move again? Or
no, I'm just trying to make her relax and stuff and chit chat so Jim can have a good look around the room.
Okay. And is Jim having a good look around the room?
Yeah, I'm gonna while he's kind of chatting to her, and this is when we've met Alice. This is the first time I've actually taken off my hat, even though I've been inside for a little while. Didn't quite click, but as he's, I'm gonna wait for like a moment in their conversation, and then I'm gonna try to like draw her out with a story. So wherever that's right, and I can do it right now if we want.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So I'm gonna wait for them and be like, Miss Beale, any chance you've been across the water to the States?
Oh, I mean, I've been to the continent, but no, not to the. Sorry, I don't know enough about history. Would she say the colonies? Like, what would she call it? No, I haven't.
It'd be the United States at this point, but okay. She might call them colonies still. But well, the most amazing thing. Now I know you've had a death in the house. That's why we're here, and it sounds like she was frozen solid. Now up in the north, it gets so cold that you can bring out a cup of coffee, or I guess you might bring out a cup of tea, and it'll freeze in 10 seconds flat. That's how cold it gets. Now, that's not magic. That's not anything spiritual. But we know there's something going on here. Is there anything strange, anything so fantastical you just couldn't believe it? And I would like to use my move to, what is it? When you tell a story from back home that is wildly unbelievable in order to charm someone, roll with presence. And I'd like her to kind of spill about this situation.
Yeah, well, go ahead and roll.
That is terrible. So that even with +2, that's only a 5. I would definitely like to use the Mask of the Past. So I will use my first Mask of the Past.
All right. Well, tell us the flashback.
Yeah, so the flashback is narrate a flashback to your childhood that shows the high level of privilege you were born into. And so we see kind of the camera pans into a very large, like East Coast country manor house with a gate and hedges. And as it kind of pans around, we show up to a stable, and there are probably 24 different horses, and a very young Jim Fletcher is kind of going down the line with his pick of horse options to go riding.
Nice. So, I mean, she just talks a little bit first of all about Ginny. You know, she was a lovely girl, and so good with Roger and the baby, and now, thanks to that ridiculous tabloid, we haven't been able to find a replacement. It's just terrible. But let's see. Strange things. I mean, well, they say this house is haunted. There's been lots of little things over the years. What could I tell you?
I mean, anything that just didn't work quite right, Nobody could explain it.
Well, the strangest thing, what I think was the strangest thing. Oh, we've lost Jamie. Hopefully their browser will pick up again in a sec. The tabloids didn't report this at all, but to me the strangest thing was that it seemed like all the clocks had stopped at the moment of Ginny's death.
That is mighty strange. And I'll look around, like, is there a clock?
Yeah, so now all the clocks are working normally, but what she explains is that when they found Ginny the next morning after she passed away, every clock in the house, and now that you think about it, you've seen clocks in a few of the rooms, all of them had stopped at exactly 2:53 a.m. And that's
now these are mechanical wind-up clocks.
Yeah, I imagine they would be.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Beale. That's exactly the kind of thing we're looking for.
All right. Okay. So I'll pop down and see how Reeves is doing downstairs. You were thinking about putting on a mask. Did you? Oh,
yeah. Yep. So I was gonna do the first of the Mask of the Past also.
Mm-hmm.
Which mine is narrate a flashback to your young adulthood before you were a servant that shows your most significant professional triumph. And I think it's a kind of flashback scene of Reeves in the ballet, and you don't really see like her dancing too much. You just kind of see like the very end when she's kind of doing the bow, and it's, people are standing up and clapping. Everyone really likes it. And there's just this look of like immense pride on her face in what she had done as like the curtains kind of close on her.
All right. So that means that you have a clue with a complication. I think that like the same thing will happen to you almost as what happened to Malik. As you look around, you don't find a diary, you don't find anything like that. But again, you hear the sound of glass cracking. And when you turn, you notice that a glass figurine of a tiger has fallen off a shelf and shattered just behind where you're standing. And just to save myself some creative thought, I will also give you the condition unnerved. And both you and Malik at this point will hear a sound from the kitchen, which is also in the basement, and you'll both realise that there is a servant or a cook in the kitchen who's sort of bustling around in there, whether you want to go talk to her or not. Malik, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I see that servant, right? And and I say, "Excuse me, you, come here." Like, and I'm like rudely asking them to come over and attend to me.
She kind of looks up from the kitchen. She's this kind of jowly and square-framed older woman. She hoists up the large mixing bowl that she's vigorously stirring and carries it with her as she comes in, and just reeks of onion and tobacco. And she says, "Oh, well, hello. Who are you both then? And what can I what can I do for you?"
We're here about the what is the word? Unfortunate incident that happened.
I don't know. I don't know nothing about anything unfortunate. I don't want to get mixed up in nothing.
Oh, well, and I'm paying attention to how she smells of tobacco, and I pull out my own cigarette case and I open it. I mean, it's just there's no trouble. We're simply talking here.
She's like, she kind of stopped stirring for a minute, but now the wooden spoon starts to slowly move in circles again as she calms down. Well, all right. What is it?
Well, we just wanted to know. I couldn't help but notice, and I'm like pointedly looking at all the little signs that there have been certain trouble. Um, we're here to look into what's going on. I'm sure you've heard of us, I say, and I'm having troubles accessing the character keeper, but we're part of what's it called again? Hargrave
House.
Yeah, and I say we're here from Hargrave House, and we're here to fix things. So,
well, look, I've got the butcher's boy coming in just a minute, and Mrs. Veal has a mind for mutton tonight. So, whatever it is, it's gonna have to be quick.
absolutely. What can you tell me about Ginny? I ask.
Oh, poor Ginny. She looks down. She looks a little sad. She was a wonderful maid, the best we've had here. Terrible what happened to her. Terrible it is. Do you want to go ahead and roll the information move with presence, I guess?
Yes, which I don't have a plus in, but that's okay. So I'm trying to see if you know what? I'm gonna roll with an advantage with my waistcoat. I'm gonna say I'm really pretty. I'm super pretty. So that means I roll with an advantage, right?
Yeah, and you mark the waistcoat, so that's
okay. I will. I think I can. I'm using my phone. How treacherous. And I'm just double checking presence. Yeah. Okay. I will mark the waistcoat. But yeah, so let's roll.
Oh.
So, no, but that's like 3d6. I'm trying to break it apart. Can I see how to? Oh, there it is. Oh yeah, I get the 2 5s. Nice. Very nice.
So, and are you rolling at +2?
No. That's Oh, sorry, that was my bad. Ignore the +2.
No, that's right. So that's a 10. So you're going to find a clue.
Nice. With no complication.
So she says some positive things about Ginny, and then she sort of looks at you a second time, and she looks at Reg. Hargrave House, huh? You know about all that strangeness then? No, she did say something strange not long before she died about the young Roger, who is the youngest, the youngest son of the Beals, I guess, or the only son of the Beals. She said that she sometimes, when she looked at him, he looked older somehow. I don't know what that means. Maybe you do. And so
I say we do, even though I don't at the moment. I just say, of course we do. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention, Miss
Thicket.
Miss Thicket, of course. And then like I hand over the cigarette, right? I leave it on the table, right? I just like put on like a couple on the table.
And I think there's a knock at the kitchen, the service entrance to the kitchen. She said, "Oh, I must go." But before she leaves, she notices that you've been playing with the wards, and she suddenly is like less deferential and just like this fiery burst of anger. She says, "Now don't you touch those things. You don't know what you're messing with." And
and then I say, "Oh, I apologize, Miss Reeves. Please, no more touching of those things. You heard the lady."
And what was Reeves up to while this was going on? Are you just watching and listening, or?
Yeah, I think she was like cleaning up the fallen glass and stuff, and probably walked into the room like at that moment to be thrown under the bus, and just instinctively is like, "Of course, sir. My clumsiness. My apologies."
All right. So upstairs, I'm conscious that I owe both of you a complication from your mixed successes on your information moves. And I think that what happens is that you've talked to Alice a little, and Harold sort of says, "Well, shall we continue on the tour?" And he opens the door for you both to come out into the hall. But both of you have this feeling. So Alice has just told you about this strange effect where the clocks all froze at the same time. And as you walk towards the door, this intense wave of deja vu crashes over you. It feels like you've walked this, like you're walking the same few steps on a loop. For a moment, it seems like you've always been walking these same few steps in a loop. But then it's passed. Somehow it seems to have lasted forever, but also to be over almost immediately. I want both of you to mark the condition just untimely. Just a little disoriented in time for a moment there.
Also, as an option for you, because I used the Tall Tales move, it says on a 10+ they won't ask for anything in return, which implies to me that they might because it was a mixed.
That is nice. Well, maybe I will think about that some more, but thank you. So, all right. So you head further down the hall. Harold knocks, doesn't get an answer, and opens the door onto what appears to be a child's bedroom. And he explains that this is Roger's bedroom. Did you want to have a look, or
just have a look around, see if anything doesn't look like it should be in a child's bedroom, like something that would belong to someone much older.
We'll go ahead and roll with the information move with reason, I think.
Yep. Okay. 10.
Nice. Anything that seems like it should belong to an older person. I wonder what you would find.
Like, they're reading stuff 10 years for someone 10 years older than them, or
I think that what you find is a crystal decanter, and it looks like it's held alcohol. It looks like a vessel for alcohol, and if you open it up, you'll smell, that it was recently held port. So yeah, a little odd. I think even in Victorian times, a whole bottle of port in a child's bedroom is somewhat out of place.
I like how we say even in Victorian times.
And then he'll, ask if, should we continue?
I'll just glance at it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be much in the child's room. That now, where your wife was, is that the only bedroom, or are there more rooms here?
So there's just the two bedrooms, my wife's and then my son's, and then we'll head upstairs to the attic, and that's where the nursery is.
Oh, it sounds like the attic is the place to take a look.
Also, a lot of people, most people were in this sort of area and time were Christian of some description. Is there like crosses and Bibles anywhere in the house, or like not at all, or heaps of them, or where's his family on that scale sort of thing?
What a great question. I think that there was a library downstairs, and you certainly would have seen at least a couple of books. Maybe not the Bible itself, but some books of, Christian thought, Christian essays, Christian etiquette, things like that. Okay. Does Helena, how is Helena disposed to Christianity as someone more in touch with spiritual things?
No, she talks to all sorts of spirits all the time, so Christianity is a stupid waste of time. But she expects it in most people's houses because it's common. So
yeah, I mean, I think you've seen the sort of texts that you would expect in most people's houses. Not a profusion, not a performative excess or anything.
Yeah, there's
like
not
that.
like a big cross in every room or anything.
Yeah, no, nobody's done anything like that.
Okay.
All right, and Harold will lead the two of you up to the attic to check out the nursery, and let's just take our next break here. So again, we'll go for about 10 minutes. So if we come back about 8 minutes past the hour, great. We've lost Jamie again, so I'll just give it a couple more minutes to see if they can rejoin us.
Sure. While we do that, I've actually a question. That my Tall Tales move.
Yeah.
It's not clear if it's usable on another player, and I'm wondering if anyone has thoughts about that.
Let's have a look. When you tell a story from back home that is wildly unbelievable in order to charm someone, roll with presence. On a hit, they fall for your charm and do as you wish or reveal a clue, your choice. I mean, I'm inclined to assume that that's not meant to be used on other PCs. What's your thought?
I'm fine with not using it. I'm mostly curious.
I mean, it does kind of take away the other person's agency for their character. However, you could still narrate telling a tall tale, and they can decide to roleplay their response to that.
Yeah, I was thinking a little bit like the Mask's custom comfort and support, and like if they open up, but then the player gets to choose a little bit there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it also lets them reveal a clue, which, is something that generally tends to be something associated with
That's
NPCs or what are they called in this game? People of interest? Side characters.
Side character.
Mm.
I'm fine with keeping it for side characters.
Yeah. If you wanted to metagame a PBTA game, you could just sit in a room and you just keep telling us stories. So
you give me clues.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I mean, I think that you can do that anyway in this game because you could just play nothing but the vulnerable move. It would work the same way. Yeah. Hey. All right. So just before we get back into the game, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about mechanics and how stuff's going to work. So just in terms of resolving the threat, like dealing with the ghost. In this game, you can... don't worry about it, Jamie. In this game, you can only resolve the threat during the night phase. So there's no way that you can get rid of the ghost during the day phase, dusk phase, anything like that. It's got to be at night. And you can only resolve the threat if you have successfully answered a question that lets you resolve the threat. So in this case, that is the difficulty 6 question. You need to figure out how you can get the ghost to pass on to the next world before you can do that, and you can only do it during the night phase. So in terms of today, my goal is to play the day phase for probably about another 20 or 30 minutes. Get in some more general sort of role playing, and then get in a dusk phase as well, which is more like an admin and setup type phase, and then we'll be ready to launch right into the night phase next time, which should be the most exciting part of the game, touch wood. So if you want to be able to resolve the threat during this cycle of play, you want to think about whether you're going to be able to answer that question either in the day phase or kind of set yourself up to answer it in the night phase. You definitely don't have to do that. You're welcome to, take some time to just relax your characters, play some vulnerable moves, do some character stuff. There's no reason that you need to resolve this threat in this cycle, but that's just kind of how it would work mechanically. You also just want to draw your attention to the vulnerable moves, so that's the way that you clear conditions in the game. So all of you at this point have at least one condition. So think about whether that's something that you'd like to trigger before we get to the night phase as well. But I will start... Oh, sorry. Does anyone want to ask anything about any of that mechanical stuff?
No. I've been envisioning that we went there at 9 or 10 in the morning sort of thing, so we could still have time to do stuff in the afternoon before everything goes to shit at night time.
Yeah, so you definitely have time for those scenes. I mean, especially just because we're in a 2-shot and there's only going to be so much time to play in. I do want to make sure that we get through all those cycles of play, so I might kind of artificially cut things off a little early. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. I think that makes sense.
All right. So Reeves and Malik in the basement. You've spoken to the cook. You've looked around a little bit. Are you thinking of exploring the basement more, or do you want to head back upstairs, meet up with your friends? Like, what are you each thinking about at this point, or what is Malik going to tell Reeves to do?
Yeah, I think I actually want to trigger the vulnerable move. Let's see. When you have an intimate moment and then another, one of you is engaged in your vice. Thankfully, I have my cigarettes with me.
I was going to say, I thought it might be opium. I was like, I don't know if you can just whip that out in the middle of the basement.
I'll admit I was a bit of a power gamer, and I thought I'm going to use cigarettes because then it's easier for me to trigger this vulnerable move. Jammy always power gaming. So I think what it looks like is there's a way that this always happens. I just touch the back of Miss Reeves' elbow, and I nod towards like one of the unused rooms, and I think it's just this quick successions of cuts where the door closes behind us. I take out the cigarette. Miss Reeves has a lighter out, if that makes sense. Right? And then Malik just goes straight into, I just need a moment, Miss Reeves, to calm the nerves, you understand. That's not that there's anything wrong. Not that I am unsettled. It's just always good to have these moments, you understand. I mean, he's saying all these things, but it's translation subtitles. I'm very unsettled. I need your help. Please tell me nice things. Right?
Yep. And Miss Reeves, I think, is like one of those little basement windows. She kind of like cracks open a little bit and like blows some of the smoker out. Just completely humors you. Like, of course, you're not unsettled at all. You've handled this before. This isn't anything new. And is just basically like stroking your ego of like, this is child's play compared to the stuff that you've dealt with before.
Does Reeves have a hip flask? Because they could be doing the brandy at the same time. I don't know.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I think as like...
Oh, wait, actually, can we say I take out like the hip flask for you? Like I know where it is on your person and I hand it to you while I go, right, absolutely. Yes, this is child's play. Miss Reeves, you haven't taken a sip yet.
Oh, and yeah, as you like grab it from where I have it stashed, I like don't even look at you. I just like, it's kind of like we're just in sync of like, I grab it from you, take a little polite sip, offer one to you, put it back. And I think like Miss Reeves kind of is, like stroking your ego a bunch, saying how great you are, like how this is child's play to you. And then we'll kind of like do the same thing with her condition of unnerved, but more like she's talking you up and she's like, you've handled this sort of thing. Like you're so accomplished, not like me, any little thing. And I just jump at, but I'm fine. I'm trying to keep going. It was just, just some broken glass. And kind of like shivers a little bit at that.
And I think this is like one of those rare moments where Malik is capable of like looking past himself a little bit. And he places a hand on your shoulder, very risque for the Victorian era, and leans in close and says, Miss Reeves, you are a perfectly capable individual, quite strong. It wouldn't serve me or my interests if I had chosen someone weak or wanting. Know that I recognize your skills and your strengths.
Miss Reeves just kind of blushes at that and is like, well, we wouldn't want anything to come between you and your interests, would be.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to try to hit my XP trigger. And I'm going to look you in the eyes and I'm going to say, but Miss Reeves, what happens when you become one of those interests?
And I think at that, can I hit my XP trigger? I think Miss Reeves just kind of like just goes red and like diverts everything back to your academic achievements and even like the clues that you had found. And it's like, you were able to like, you need to keep your interest focused on, on solving the case. You're able to find the spiral fractures and even that fallen lion statue, and just gives you complete credit for the clue that she had found. And it's like your mind is too valuable to be distracted from something like this.
Of course, Miss Reeves. As always, you are correct.
All right. So both of you can clear an appropriate condition. I think you each have one. And if it's your vice, and both of you have used your vice in this scene, you can either choose to stumble on a clue and you will tell us what the clue is that you stumble on, or you can invite the other hunter to ask about your past, and then you must answer truthfully but not necessarily completely. I wonder if the intention is that only one person's vice will be active in a given scene, but for now, let's just do both, and I'll double check that between sessions.
Okay.
Yeah, this is something that always comes up when we're playing Druid. But yeah, for sure. Yeah, Joel, did you have something in mind for which option you'd like?
I think I'll definitely do the stumble on a clue. And I think it's like after Miss Vice gets up, or Miss Reeves gets all flustered, she gets up to walk away and like get some distance between her and Malik and takes a bigger swig of her hip flask. And as she's putting it away and kind of looking down, she notices on the ground in the room we're at, it's a clue I can decide on. I think she notices one of those herb bundles, but instead of like in a nice kind of column and tied up nicely, it's more warped, and a lot of the herbs are kind of like charred at the edges, kind of warping away. There's like stuff mixed in with the herb bundle that shouldn't be there, like maybe some longer shards of glass, and like a limb from like that lion figurine is kind of like tied in amongst the herbs.
Nice.
I got excited when you said limb, but
There's a dead body.
yeah, it's like what? Ooh, but yeah.
Right.
Nice.
Malik, which option will you choose?
Yeah, I think I know the power game move is to get another clue, but I think I'm actually going to ask you a question instead. And I'm completely distracted. I don't even notice that you stumble across the clue, because clearly you're the one who's more adept at these things, let's be honest. And so I think instead Malik is in the middle of like fixing his waistcoat, and he asks, Miss Reeves, have you been in contact with your former employee, the one before me?
So I think that I would like to cut to the others now, and we'll come back and let this scene continue. So you've got some time to think about what you might have to say. And for clarity, this obviously is one of the times when the rules allow you or encourage you or actually require you to talk about your past. But Helena and Jim, you are led upstairs, up to the very top story, the attic. The attic has been transformed into a nursery, and it's decorated in soft pastel colours. There's a crib in the middle of the room, and Mary Alice Beale, the youngest Beale, is cooing away nicely in there. Roger Beale, the young son, is standing over the crib. He's sort of playing with the baby, or playing with a little rattle over its head. He's wearing a sailor's outfit, and he's a little bit ruddy-cheeked. He barely sort of glances over to you as you come in.
What's his expression, though? Is he happy?
Yeah, he looks cheerful. He's kind of ruddy, like red cheeks, happy to be playing with his little sister, or at least appears that way. I'm going to ask both of you, as you come into the nursery, how do you know the ghost is with you right now? Starting with you, Helena, who surely has the most experience with this sort of thing.
There's a smell. There's like a strong smell of jasmine in one section that isn't in the rest of the house, and I can't see any jasmine vines or anything.
Interesting. What about you, Jim?
I will say the curtains are moving even though the windows are closed.
Nice. And so Harold will sort of introduce you to Roger. And Roger seems visibly excited about this, some supernatural things, some exciting things, some strangers. What are the two of you going to do?
I've got a collection of like amulets and pendants, so I can maybe have them in a bracelet or something. I'm going to just have that in my hand, and I'll say, it's nice to meet you. I'll kneel down. It's nice to meet you, Roger, and I'm going to shake his hand with that in my hand. So some of those symbols will be touching him. To see if there's any reaction.
All right. Do you want to roll the information move for that? Maybe with sensitive even makes sense. You can choose whether you want to mark those items or not to get advantage on the roll.
Yeah, what the hell. Okay. So 2. No, not that one. That one.
But did you want to roll with advantage?
Oh, all right. So I just roll another dice.
Yeah.
To do the whole thing again, or?
I don't mind. Whatever you prefer.
17.
Oh, nice.
Smashed it.
Well, so that's actually a 12.
Yeah, 12.
So,
okay, so yep.
Okay, so that's going to be quite exciting for me. On a 12 plus, on a hit you find a clue and I'll tell you what it is. And on a 12 plus you also find a mastermind clue. So I will come back to you to resolve that, but I just want to check in first with the liar, Jim Fletcher. What do you do while Helena is talking to the boy?
Yeah, I'm going to talk to our host, Howard, and I'm gonna go over to him and say, Now, Mr. Beale, I'm wondering, this is a bit of a sensitive situation, and I'm hoping that maybe you could clear the children out so we could take a good look around. And I would also like to use my Tall Tales move again, and say, clearly I'm not from around these parts, and back out in the States, we were climbing up a mountain trail, and it was just like this. You see those curtains over there, and it was the trees were just blowing in the wind, and we were pretty sure there were spirits out there chasing us, and we wouldn't want anything to happen to your children. And so what we did is we got down, we found a cave, went all the way underground. So why don't you go all the way down to the basement, just like that cave, and we'll be right. Everything will be right as rain. So it's with presence. Not just barely.
So what will happen? So, and you're hoping that he will do what you've asked?
Yeah,
Is
so
that right?
take the kids out so we have the whole room to ourselves.
All right. But like you say, it implies that he'll ask for something in return.
Yeah.
So I think that he'll just say, well, yeah, so all right, but I wonder if I might ask you a favor in return, something that you could do for me.
That seems reasonable.
All right. Well, let me just get the boy out of the way. I'll ask you afterwards.
By all means, we'll figure out what we find here and we'll report back.
Right. So he scoops up the boy, who kind of groans, "Oh, I want to talk to the lady," and starts carrying him downstairs. Roger picks up the baby and takes her away as well. Helena, what you notice? So there was no particular reaction as the medallion touched the boy's skin. Not that that's necessarily determinative of anything, but it's an indication. But when you look up as the boy moves away, you're immediately drawn to the window, because what you see when you look out the window, as you've climbed up the stairs, you've been through the bedrooms, you've kind of seen the neighboring buildings. They're pretty unremarkable. They're all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But when you look out the window from this room, from the attic, it doesn't look out on the street at all. It looks out on a country scene, a little country house. And the country house is on fire. It's burning. And it's very clear. You've had visions before. This is not a vision. This is what's actually happening. But then, it's gone. It was there for sure. It was there for sure for a moment. But then it vanishes. And so that's a clue. The window looking out, not on the street, but on a burning country house. And as you continue to look out into the street, maybe trying to figure out whether that, might have just been a trick of the light or something, as sure as you are that it's not, you see someone out on the street who really catches your eye, really captures your attention. She is a stately, middle-aged black woman. She is impeccably dressed. And the most striking thing about her that you notice from this vantage point is a sapphire choker. It's quite dazzling, even, looking down from way up here. But she seems for a moment to make eye contact with you, and then she turns and walks away. And you're sure that you're going to see her again. There's just something that tells you that. You're sure that she's someone that you'll notice another time. I think that we'll come back to the basement here, and I want to find out what Reeves tells Dr. Alcabir.
Yeah, so I think when asked about her previous employer, Reeves doesn't say a lot, but you can kind of see just she is remembering stuff in her past, and it's this very traumatic, her eyes kind of goes wide and she looks haunted for a second, almost gets that unnerved condition back, and then kind of collects herself and says, he unfortunately hasn't regained his ability to speak yet, so I haven't spoken with him in a while. And then just kind of clams up a little bit at that.
Ooh, yeah, and I think when you say that, Malik looks a little satisfied. He just nods and says, "Yes, of course. I should have known better as a doctor that it would have been too soon to regain that ability. But Miss Reeves, you made me a promise. You won't see him without me. Yes."
Of course, and I intend to keep that promise.
Yes, good girl. Now, and fix the waistcoat, and we must go back to our duties. We know that those two can't handle anything without us. And I didn't even view, right? Subtitle mysteries.
Mysteries, like, of course, I'm sure they're already asking about something you already have expertise on.
So I do want to wrap up the day phase pretty soon, but I just want to check if there's any particular scenes that you want to get out of the way during the day phase, and in particular, whether anyone is ready to try and answer a question. You do have enough clues that if you can incorporate them all, you could have a reasonable shot at either of those.
I wanted to ask, have they got someone they could stay with tonight? And if possible, they could stay in the spare rooms at our house, because it's a big house, just overnight sort of thing, because that way we can come back without them in the house and do what we need to do.
So maybe you put that to the couple.
Yeah.
Harold, I think, is reluctant, but Mrs. Beale will talk him round and kind of say, "Well, now, Harold, they know what they're doing. We could go and stay with my sister for a few days."
Well, you're welcome to stay at, what are we, Harvard House or something? Hargrave House, and you could tell people you stayed at Hargrave House. That would be, it'd be the envy of your neighbours. And
yeah, I think Harold will like blush a little at that suggestion. He says, I don't mean to be rude, but I've heard some things about Hargrave House, and I don't think it would be suitable for a lady or a young child. I'm grateful for your offer, but your sister will be fine, Alice. That's wonderful.
So we'll if you leave the side door open, we'll come in there. You can lock the front door, and just be out by sundown.
By sundown.
And of course, we'll take care of the place.
I think that Mrs. Beale will make a sort of meaningful eye contact with the liar, Jim Fletcher, and say, "Yes, I'm sure that you will take good care of this place."
Oh yeah, everything will be real safe, real tidy. I'll make sure to wipe my boots next time. And I'll just give her a little hat tip.
All right. And as you leave, Mrs. Beale will slip a little piece of paper to the liar, Jim Fletcher, that says, "Meet me here, midnight, servant's entrance."
Wow.
And it is signed with a lipstick kiss.
You can't take him anywhere.
By the way, this is not the first time it's happened, right?
Inside pocket of the long fringy coat.
All right. So does anyone want to use the answer a question move before we get to the dusk phase? Like, do you want to talk about whether you have an answer for either of those questions?
Yeah, sorry, I missed the first part. So will we still be able to grab clues later? So let's say we solve the first one, and then I kind of want to power game a little bit and get the
other move.
Yeah, if people are okay with that.
So we think it's attached to the attic.
Well, I mean, that's for you to establish out of your questions. You know it was in the attic, but that may not be the part of the house that it's attached to.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you have an idea, Blake? Or I'm always happy to make something up on the spot, no problem. But if you have an idea. Go ahead.
A lot of basement servants' quarter stuff.
So I'm guessing as characters we'd talk about what we saw at the house as we're heading away from the house or whatever, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So my character would, because she'd probably know a fair bit about it, so she would say, the boy could be possessed, the boy could be carrying something that the ghost is, like, tied to, and the third thing is the ghost could be focused on the kid. Like, if it's a lady that lost her son, she's transposing that relationship with this boy, sort of thing. So either way, there's three different reasons the ghost is hanging around the boy.
Right, but my dear, even if the ghost is attached to the boy, it's not quite the same as the physical space. What Miss Reeves and I saw, mostly me, of course, is that there were numerous protections in place in the basement, and we came across, and we know for a fact that this death is quite similar to what happened to another servant 30 years ago. It feels like the ghost must be attached to the basement with, and I think I'm going to try to specifically, I'm tagging the 30 years ago a servant was found dead frozen solid, the spiral pattern on the mirror, the corrupted bundles. I'm going to say the corrupted bundle is most of what we've been seeing is a connection to glass, mirror, ice, but
Well, and
this particular one was on fire or corrupted.
that glass tiger fell off a shelf when you were down there. Right?
Yes,
So
I was the
maybe-
one who found it. Mhm.
It's possible that before we, because we definitely felt the spirit up in the attic, but maybe before that it knocked it off to kind of scare you away from all those bundles that were down there. I didn't want you to keep messing up all the things in the servants' quarters.
Yeah, I am just amazed by the way that ticking those boxes affects the dice roll that's listed on the keeper. It's so smart.
Know.
It's incredible.
I like it.
Yeah,
Great
the keeper
work.
is stunning.
Yeah, so good, so good.
So you're up to a straight 2d6 roll. Do you want to incorporate one or two more of those clues and try and answer?
Yeah, I think I've been saying a lot though. So if someone wants to incorporate another clue, maybe Miss Reeves, who actually did the work,
Did she though?
No, I mean Malik will never say it.
We were the only ones down there.
I'm wondering if something was in this house where there's obviously someone died in the country, and something from that house was brought into this one over 30 years ago, and that's why the ghost sort of followed that and is now.
Is that the burning country house?
Yeah,
Like maybe that's a flash of their old house in the country or something?
yeah. This is what created the ghost, and something from that house came here, and that's why the ghost is here.
I mean, if we really want to go for it, maybe the clocks are from the old country house. That's what they saved in the fire.
Ooh.
Yeah. I like that.
That's
That's
cool.
Well, that's going to get you to a 2d6 plus 2, which is like a pretty strong roll. Do you want to throw in do you want to work in your last clue somehow as well, or are people happy with that?
I'm inclined to save that because we need new clues for the other part of the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, who would like to roll?
I can.
Yeah, go for it.
I've kind of.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have 5.
That is a miss. So on a miss, the answer is incorrect and the keeper reacts. You can increase your success tier by invoking the Janus mask, but only if all of you put on a mask. So,
Yeah, let's do it. Come on.
Yeah, it's a two-shot.
Yeah.
Totally.
all
This
right.
is meant to happen.
Well, I think that let's just go left to right across the character keeper then and see what mask everyone's put on. One of you can also, if you want, mark the threat mask, and that's one that requires everyone to narrate something anyway. But that will only count for one of you. It also might end up taking a little long if everyone's going to be doing a mask anyway. But let's start with Liar Jim Fletcher. What will you mark?
I'm going to grab the gilded door and gain the condition most beloved.
Damn.
Nice.
Here we go.
So-
Going for it.
None of the rest of you can choose the gilded door now.
And I don't have any idea what that does, but I have
Yeah,
it.
I know. That's part of the joy. So yeah, just mark that you have. Does it automatically do that? You have the
No,
condition.
I just added it.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, just make a note that you can never clear that condition, or
Yeah,
I
put
guess
little-
just remember.
Put little stars around it.
Cool. All right, Reeves.
I did narrate a flashback to your young adulthood before you were a servant that shows what a charmed life you lived. And I think it is like we're kind of having this conversation walking down like the London streets back to Hargrave's house. We're kind of like spitballing back and forth, and then I think it kind of flashes to another time where Reeves was walking behind someone, but it was more of a walking behind some like her own butler who was carrying like a bunch of shopping bags for her, as she had just like a purse with like very fancily dressed kind of trendy fashion of the time, very expensive clothes, with like a butler in front of her walking just like laden with shopping bags for her. And then it kind of flashes back to the current time where instead it's Reeves dutifully following Malik, as Malik has like his doctor's bag instead of shopping bags.
Nice. Malik.
Yeah, I think we flash back to that moment where Malik was in front of the mirror right before it broke into the spiral. But instead of that happening, instead we see another man walk behind Malik, and the two of them reach out for each other, and Malik says, "My love, I have to get to the university soon. You know that they won't be able to do anything without me. I'm sure that they'll be stealing all the credit from my work." And I think he shuts me up by kissing me. I think that's what happens because that's very effective. So I'm going to Mark. You lost someone very important to you. Who were they? Name them, and I'm going to say his name was Victor.
Nice. And Helena.
I think there's I'm thinking about the mother in bed reading a book, and there's a flashback to when my mother was pregnant, and she's like 8 months pregnant, and she's sort of rolling over in bed in her sleep, and it's in a dark attic somewhere, and there's creatures that have flickering light, sort of semi-transparent creatures have like 6 eyes and fangs and teeth, and they're kind of swirling around the roof, and the longer the image holds, there's more and more creatures sort of gathering as they're all coming to have a squeeze at whatever's in the womb, which is me.
Nice. So that brings your answer to the question up to a 7 to 9. So that means that the answer is correct, and you do have the opportunity that it lists. I'll copy the text somewhere for you for the move that you gain. But because it's a 7 to 9, not a 10 plus, I will add an unwelcome complication to the answer, and or pursuing the opportunity will be more dangerous. I'm happy to have a week to think about what that might be, so I'll just hold on to that for now. But I think I was hoping to get the dusk phase done today, but I reckon it'll be better. We're running a little short on time, so let's just save that for next time. It'll flow nicely that way, I reckon. So would love to finish up here just with a round of stars and wishes. So stars being something that you enjoyed in the game today, and wishes something that you are hoping for in our second and final session. And let's just go back right to left across the character keeper for this. So Blake, can I get you to go first?
Good characterization all round. I can sort of solid image of what everyone's like. I can see people writing fan fiction because of the Reeves-Malik relationship. They'll be shipping those two, immediately. Yeah, it was all good. Yeah, pretty much. Let's have a look. Future. Yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes. I can see how you can kind of get lost in role play. So it's I can see how you could easily play this just like this particular adventure or this investigation over 6 sessions sort of thing, if you really role played every single moment and every part of the character's lives and that. But you got to keep the pace going. Which is, more the same. It's all good.
Cool. Jamie?
Yeah, really big wishes. I really loved all the liar moves, the tall tale. That's my favorite every time. Well, back in those parts, like every time game would start, I'd be so excited. So big stars to that. Big stars to Joel for going along with my bullshit. Thank you so much. I'm very enamored with what's going on with Mysteries and Malik already. And uh, stars to Blake for being like the only like genuinely good person. And I like the one. I like the fact that the person who's like connected to the spirits is actually the most human out of all of us. I really like that.
It's going to be different in the night phase.
Yeah. I had a feeling, right? Like we were setting it up, which is excellent. And Shane, it's just so nice playing with you. I thought you did such an amazing job presenting the mystery and all of the clues. This has been like a really, this is super fun. I'm super. My wish. Oh, do we go into wishes now? Yeah. My wish is I don't mind if we try to squeeze in like another mystery after we solve this one. But if we want things to breathe, then that's okay. But I think I'd be happy to do something like that, like if ever. So yeah. But other than that, I'm happy to. I want to interact with the American too. I think that would be really hilarious. I think we don't get along in the best way. So
We'll find out. We don't get to talk about it.
yeah. True.
Nice. All right, Joel.
Yeah, stars to everyone. Like Blake said, like just great characterization where you can picture people. You can kind of tell like not necessarily the like stereotype of each person, but like you can envision them in your mind, and you can already write fan fiction about them, or write like you can imagine some of the different stories that Liar Jim has gone on, and like all the Helena being like the one actually solving this stuff while like everyone else is doing completely unhelpful stuff to the mystery, that sort of thing. I think wishes, I'm just really looking forward to pretty much doing the whole structure. Like we've kind of had the day phase, so seeing like how the dusk phase plays out, how the night phase plays out with kind of more of like the risky moves, kind of like the night moves from Brindlewood Bay, and then seeing like the dawn phase and seeing like a nice complete cycle is what I'm looking forward to.
Cool, thanks. And Gabe?
Yeah. And this is super fun. I also really enjoy the Tall Tales move. As soon as I saw it, just gonna keep dropping that in. Similar to what folks said, though, like the characters feel like there's a lot there already, and we played one session and really only played part of it because we did all the character development stuff. I think. Also, just for me, like I'm a GM or a keeper a lot, so it's really fun to play. So that feels good. And yeah, I'm excited to see more. And so on the wishes side, I definitely want to find I have two conditions. I feel like I need to have a vulnerable move, and I honestly like want to have a vulnerable move with every character, because like they're all super interesting, and I'm really glad like Shane, you picked up the like I was gonna find a way to like make a pass at Mrs. Beale. You like jumped in there for me. It was great. But yeah, wishes. I mean, the other wish would be like just kind of to see the other parts. So definitely want to feel the night phase, and I get to roll my. Can I handle my curse in the dusk phase? So I'm looking forward to that.
Cool. Well, yeah.
Oh, I forgot to say I have a wish for a corpse. Just putting that out there.
Oh, I know. I was very conscious when you were reading out that move. I was like, oh, I'm going to have to insert a corpse somewhere. Yeah, I wonder how that will work. So, yeah. I mean, similarly for me, I had a really good time. I thought all your characters were great, but the system is so, like, the system and the adventure, the threat is what it's called, is so like smooth and easy to run, which I really appreciate. And I think it works really well. The not talking about your backstory, the specific moments when you are allowed to, like it does feel like there's a depth to the characters that I don't normally expect in a first session. So I really appreciated that. And yeah, my wish, similar to a few people, is to see how the other phases play out next time. So thanks very much, everyone. There is one more thing before we finish up now. This is our kind of post-credits sequence. We see a scene. Well, none of your characters see a scene, but we see a scene with the same sort of stately middle-aged black woman who Helena saw earlier in the session. She is standing in her gargantuan study in her manor house. She is lovingly waited on by her servant Elmore, and she is staring at an enormous map of London that hangs on one wall. And we see that there are push pins with different coloured flags on them arranged in a few different sites around the city. She holds one more push pin in her hand, and we kind of go to a close-up as she pushes it deep into the map, and we see that the spot that she has now marked with this final push pin is Hargrave House itself. And that's where we'll finish for this week. So thanks very much, everyone. Can't wait to play some more next time.
When you said servant, I thought there's going to be like dozens that look exactly like Reeves.
Well, not yet, but maybe there will be by next session.
No, my mystery is one of a kind. I ensured that.
So I'm just going to end the recording now.